It was going to be a matter of time before this gentleman and myself crossed paths, and I'm so glad that it did happen. It's an honor and a joy to catch up with the funny, the talented, the tornado of positive energy himself, Kevin Towell. How are you, my friend?
Oh, it's so good to see you. What an introduction. I feel like I need you to follow me around and introduce me to everybody that way. That's amazing.
Just speaking the truth, my man.
But it's good to see you again. It's so great to see you.
Likewise.
Life is good. It's starting to get warmer out. So talk about positive energy, trying to push out some positive energy, and hopefully it comes back to us.
I love it. You're speaking my language, totally. I usually like to start these things by talking about how I met my guest, and most of the time, 99% of the time, it's a good memory. But I don't think when I met you that the job we were on was a particularly good memory for me. It had nothing to do with you.
Yes,
it was
I
just the
agree.
circumstances. It was a few years back. It
I
was
agree.
during COVID, which is important here. It was a pharma print shoot. We were at a fitting, and we're in the city. And again, this was at a time where we were testing on site before we were even allowed into the building. We tested fine. We got in, but we endured like a 6 or 7 hour fitting that day. It was all day. We got through it, and they said to me, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, great. Tomorrow eventually arrived, but I wasn't there. The person I was supposed to be opposite of in the shoot did test positive for COVID. My understanding is that they didn't like how I looked visually with the backup that was already cast, and I was subsequently dismissed. I was released from the shoot after an all-day fitting. That I'd been in the business at that point 15 years. And that was a first for me. So it was a real screw. It was a real bitch. And
Right.
Did you end up working on that shoot?
No, I think you know what's funny is so I've been to a ton of fittings, same as you. In my mind, fittings are relatively really quick. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
not necessarily in and out, but relatively along the lines. But that was the longest fitting I've ever been a part of, and I actually didn't even know what 100% the shoot was. And I feel like there was two sets of us. Like for each of us, there was like a doppelganger almost lookalike, and I think they were trying to decide then who was going to be doing it, and there was a lot of confusion behind it, and I think a lot of people were frustrated, and we were just sitting around. I mean, I was short. Shoots always have sitting around, but I think that was an intense sitting around, and none of us really knew what was going on. And the next day I woke up to a phone call and an email saying that I was released as well. And I was like, what? What happened? And somebody tested positive, and they completely got rid of every single person that was there and completely rewrote it and got somebody out of left field to do it. And it was none of us that was even there. And I don't know. I was really crushed because that was a really big shoot, and I was really excited about it. But that's the industry, you have to, things like that happen. Even when you're there, even when you were picked to go to a fitting and you were right there at the finish line, you can still be released. And I think that was a big learning lesson for me, because I've never been all the way to the finish line like that on a really big commercial shoot like that, just to be released. And it felt good that everybody else was released. It wasn't just me. I didn't do something wrong at the fitting. So that made me feel good, because you guys were all, I had looked up to a lot of you guys when I met you, because, obviously you get to network when you meet people, and you guys were like, oh, I'm, doing this and I'm doing this shoot. I'm coming from New York. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But, at the time I did know what I was doing, but I didn't have, the same experiences as everybody. So to know that you guys were also cut made me feel pretty good about it as well. I didn't like to see us all get cut, but it felt good to be cut together.
I hear you. I understand. It was a big pharma print shoot. The pay was good for it. There were principals on the show, and then there were backups. They casted backups in case of someone testing positive or whatever the case may be,
Right.
could come right in. So you would think that, all right, heaven forbid, if I had COVID, somebody will step in. And I figured that's what the scenario would have been for me. A lot of cooks were in the kitchen. They just didn't like how everybody looked. And I heard that they had recast at the last minute up in New York that night
Which
for
is
that
crazy.
shoot. It is crazy.
Crazy. That's so stressful to think about. But hey, one blessing I can take away from it is I was able to meet you, and I was able to meet other actors that I still keep in contact with, that we still, network, we're checking with each other and root for each other. And that's my favorite part of the industry. Honestly, I love climbing. I love this industry. But what's really awesome is, and this is going to sound so cliche, but really, I do love meeting people and the energy between being inspired by other performers and other creatives, and meeting you guys and learning your journey and being like, well, I started doing this at this age, or I started doing it this way. And it gives me ideas to jump on or influences to be excited about. You know what I mean? And I still like following up on you and catching up and seeing what, and if we're going to talk about it, you stole my Wawa commercial a couple years ago. I'm going to bring that up because I was so excited about the Wawa's Got Pizza campaign, and I really wanted it, but Paul got it, and I couldn't be more happy about it. But I was like, of course Paul got it. That's crazy. But that was awesome.
Casting was bizarre too. But the bottom line, the case is in that farmer print shoot is you can't count your chickens before they hatch. And
100%.
Like you said, even after you book it, even after you've gone through an all-day fitting, you still don't know, folks.
100%. We were there. We were on the set. I was looking around the set. They were showing us. We were supposed to be like, I think like on a roller coaster. Do you remember that or something like that?
Yeah, they had me next to the girl and they superimposed us like right on the spot on in a roller coaster car. Yeah.
Yep. And they showed me on the screen. They were like, "This is what the ad is going to look like." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then that night I went to sleep and I woke up and it was all gone. I was like, "Oh my God, what happened?" But
poof.
That's the industry. That is the industry.
It can go poof at any second. And that's what we endure. And that's what drives us to drink. And I know you're a tequila fan. Maybe we'll get into that.
Recently I'm more of like an espresso martini guy. I'm a total millennial move, but I love espresso martinis. And tequila is still my go-to. So those are but like you said, it is soul crushing sometimes to go through this like constant rejection. And sometimes not even get any auditions for a while. And you're like, I guess I don't have it anymore. Or I guess I'm either phasing out of a look or I don't know. And you can go in a million different ways saying that it's your fault or it's your problem. But growing up and realizing it's not, your time will come. And that particular shoot, it wasn't your look or you didn't fit with the other looks or I think I like made a joke at you saying like, damn it, like you stole the Wawa shoot. And you made a comment saying like, well, my face and my look doesn't look like I would have kids of a certain age. You know what I mean?
Right. I do remember that email from you. Yeah.
And that is spot on. And that was spot on. I at the time I didn't look like, with my baby face, having a wife and having kids that were like in their 14 or 15, whatever. So it all comes down to look. It all comes down to timing and you just can't be too hard on yourself,
I remember saying to you, like, you were way too young at that point to be having, 12-year-olds for children. And it took me a long time to get over the feeling that I was of a certain age where I could have kids that old. But sorry to say now that time has unfortunately come. So you got to embrace it as you go.
But hey, there's more opportunities and, it opens the door for more opportunities and experiences, man. So you just got to roll with it,
Yeah, and back to what you were saying, whether or not you're doubting yourself, whether or not you still have what it takes, it just comes down to what jobs are available.
Yeah.
And if you're getting the audition, that means that you're a solution to the problem.
Right.
Casting believes that, and you're doing, and that's a success. It really is.
Right.
To get back to who you are, you're a Philadelphia and New York-based actor and model. You performed in various stage shows, films, TV, charity events, national promotions. You also do work away from traditional TV and film. Like you do these events. I've seen you pop up on local TV news in characters. I think that's something that's like really in your wheelhouse that I definitely want to get to as well. When it started for you, it started locally. You're the pride of Havertown, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Delco.
Yeah, a little shout out to Delco. Yeah, I was a Delco guy. If anybody knows from Delco, from Mayor of Easttown and, all those where people make fun of Delco and hoagies and all that. Yes, I am born and raised in Delaware County, right out, the suburbs right outside Philadelphia. And how I got started, in high school, I started doing drama club and theater shows and stuff like that. And I loved it. I loved the people that I met and the energy between meeting people. And then I ended up doing morning announcements and having a radio show. And it just kind of blossomed from there. And then when I went to college, I did a few things here and there, but I didn't really get into it during college. I was trying to figure out who I was, all that. And, but once I got out of college, I was really missing it. So I started doing community theater around the suburbs of the Philadelphia area. And I started meeting a lot of really cool people and networking. And somebody on one of the theater productions said, have you ever thought about doing commercials? You have a really nice smile or something, very nice. And I was very naive and I thought commercials and TV was only in LA or New York. I was like, it's only those places. I was like, I don't really know anything about that. And they said, no, like there's stuff that happens in Philadelphia. There's stuff that happens in Maryland and Washington, D.C. It's all over the place. And I said, okay, I'll look into it. And I started looking up backstage.com and these different like cool places, online casting networks, and started taking a friend of mine, Billy, was going to school for photography at the time, and he needed practice with his photography. And we came up with these wacky ideas, and he would take pictures of me and I would post them on different sites, and it started getting attraction. And I started booking, random, no line commercial shoots like in the suburbs. And I loved it. I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And then my friends and my family would call me and they'd be like, are you in like a solar panel commercial? And I'd be like, I am. That was me. So it got really exciting, and it just kind of climbed from there. And I took it seriously and, started getting more, seasoned with it and trying to figure out how I could really make it work. And once I realized I really enjoyed it and I really wanted to climb with it, everything kind of fell into place. I really took headshots seriously. I took reels seriously. I took my auditions seriously. Right now, I have like a setup with, of course it's in my bedroom, but I have all these lights and this backdrop. And I was, I studied how to set something like this up, because if you saw my auditions from the beginning, it was rough, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And then as I started doing it, different organizations would reach out to me and be like, hey, can you host our Irish dance competition? I'd be like, absolutely. And then I started networking and meeting people, and one opportunity would lead to the next. And I still keep in contact with like 95% of the people that I worked with. I try to at least follow them on social media or network in one way or another, not to use them. That's not what I mean. I like keeping in touch with people and seeing, where their journey leads them and where my journey, and maybe our paths will cross again, because as you know, being in the commercial world and acting industry, our paths will cross again. And it's crazy how it happens. And you just want to be somebody that people want to work with and people feel comfortable around. And I ended up hosting an Irish dance competition with Jennifer Fredericks from Fox 29 News in Philadelphia.
Yeah, how'd that happen? How you end up working with Jen?
She loved this Irish dance. It was like the McDade School of Irish Dance, and they would do this dance competition every year to raise money for the Delaware County Gaelic football team. And I was hosting, or I danced in it one year, like randomly danced in it. I'm not a dancer at all, but I danced in it and had fun and raised money. And I ended up meeting a lot of people, and they loved my energy and my personality, that I ended up being asked to come back the next year to co-host with Jennifer Fredericks from Fox 29 News. And we had a blast. And then we kept in contact, and she would reach out and be like, hey, I'm doing a Valentine's Day puff piece or something like that. Do you have a costume to throw on and come co-host it with me on Fox? And I'd be like, absolutely. Because I have more Halloween costumes than regular clothes at this point. And I would throw on random costumes and go on the news with her. And I don't know. It's like you said, it's not like other people's journeys. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just having fun along the line, and picking up like Quizzo and hosting Irish dance competitions and going on the news and just having fun with it. And maybe I'll find my path along the way, but I think I am on my path. You know what I mean?
It sounds like your path. Like you've popped up in the morning news as Buddy the Elf, as a pilgrim, and how can that not be fun? It just seems like it's in your wheelhouse.
It is. And to make my money on the side is I worked with children since I was like 15. I ran like parks and recreational programs and arts and crafts camps and sports camps. And then I started working in elementary schools, and I was able to keep quote unquote performing without acting. You know what I mean? When you're working with kids, you have to be, on it. And I just had a lot of fun with it. And that really helped pave the way for different opportunities. Because I was working with kids. I auditioned for like a PBS Kids TV show, which was called The Infinite Art Hunt. And I wrote this whole thing about how I've been working with kids for a decade, and that helped me get through a couple doors. And then I ended up working on like an episode or two on that show, and that was awesome. And then they called me back last year, and I'm playing like another bit part on one of their puppet shows called Albie's Elevator, which is on like its third season. So you never know. At the end of the day, you never know what doors are going to open from what opportunity. So you always want, I always want to make sure that I'm going in leading with a positive energy and a grateful energy. Because I know, and I'm sure you have as well, worked with a lot of people that come in very pretentious and very moody and angry. And I never want to be that person. And I think that goes a long way, is when you are grateful and, you know, happy to be there, and your positive energy opens different doors as well. At least that's for me, my motto as well. But it's been a lot of fun. I just still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having fun along the way, you know?
I think not knowing what you're doing allows you the freedom to do it.
Yes.
Because if you thought you know what you were doing, we would be too much in our heads and we'd be paralyzed.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And every day is a new journey. And sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? And am I even an actor anymore? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I haven't had an audition in God knows how long. And then one week you'll have 10 or 15 auditions. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? You know?
That's how it works. Now,
that's the industry.
Getting back to what you're working with kids, were you a teacher? Are you a teacher? Or did you just work in programs?
So I ran programs for Parks and Recreation for years. And then in elementary schools, I was like a preschool teacher, what was it, like 2 or 3 years? And then I started working as like a full access emotional support, emotional aid for students that had autism or anxiety or ADHD, or, you know, I was a person that was able to help children with academic goals, social goals, emotional goals, and stuff like that, while getting to work with the entire school. So I got to know a lot of people. And then I ended up, because I did the morning announcements when I was in high school, I started doing the morning announcements at this elementary school, and then I turned it into like a bit, and I would, you know, make it into like a game show type of style. And it just, it's a lot of fun. And so I've been working with kids since I was about 15. Yeah, since I was about 15. I worked at like a summer camp when I was 15, and that really just opened the door for a couple different things as well. So that's how I was making my money, like my health insurance and all my money, because acting, of course, didn't pay the bills for a very long time.
I get it. I totally understand.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun trying to balance both. And it's funny when, you know, the kids would come in and they'd be like, did I see you on the side of a SEPTA bus? Because I did like a campaign for SEPTA, and I just, my face was on the side of a SEPTA bus for like 2 years. And I was like, yeah, that literally was me. But
it's gotta be awesome. A weird feeling for the kids going.
They're like, what is this guy doing? And they were like, are you famous? And I was like, no, I'm just on the side of a SEPTA bus. But it's hard to explain that. And then I was able to use that to tell them, hey, if you have dreams to do something, you can do it. Like, I'm just some random guy that doesn't know what he's doing, but I like performing and I like acting. And now I'm able to do that. So you guys can do it too. And it's just an exciting message to give them. You know what I mean?
I get it here. And we are kind of famous. You're SEPTA Bus famous. I'm Wawa Pizza famous. Hopefully we can raise that bar a bit as time goes on. Hopefully.
All I wanted was to be Wawa Pizza famous, and you stole my career. And now I'm.
Hey, you can come to my hometown and walk down the street, and you can take the brunt of the hey Wawa's Pizza. You can take that for me. I'm over it.
Do people say that to you? People do say that to you?
It was a good moment, and I'm looking for something else to happen so that can kind of gloss over the pizza thing. And I still get, does it taste great? Is it made fresh? I still get it. And people think they're being cute, but you see it coming from a mile away. You just go, oh, really?
I was the SEPTA famous. Yeah, they would see me on the side of the buses. And then it was in the Wells Fargo Center, which was so cool. It was this big digital billboard that had it was my giant face, and it just said like something about writing SEPTA. People would send me pictures when they would go to like the Sixers game or something like that. And they'd be like, oh my God, this is wild. I'd be like, this is hilarious. Because some of the shoots, honestly, like how long did you shoot that Wawa campaign for?
We shot that 2 years ago, and then it premiered that following the next fall, and then it was renewed again the following spring. So it was everywhere in the fall, and then when it got renewed for the spring, that's when the attitude changed. I was getting a physical or whatever, and I'm in the doctor's office, and the assistant goes, oh, you're the Wawa Pizza guy. I'm like, yeah, that's me in the commercial. And she goes, I hate that commercial. I'm like, well, did you like to my face? I'm like, well, I didn't write the damn thing.
No.
It was a job, for Christ's sake. Yeah, I'm like, you liked it in the fall, didn't you? She goes, yeah, I liked it. And yeah, I had the pizza.
They turned on you.
It's okay. They turn on you like that, They turned on you. It's amazing. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is awesome. And when it gets renewed, it's like, what else you got?
You're the face of this the campaign that annoys them, because commercials do, people do want to skip through the commercials. And when we're in these repetitive commercials, we can be associated with that. And that's hilarious, actually. I think that's such a funny phenomenon. Like, people were saying to you how much they hated the Wawa campaign that you were in. That's hilarious. I love that. I love that.
Then they'll critique the pie to me as if I'm the CEO of Wawa. I'm like,
as if you made the pizza.
I can't tell you how they came up with the formulation for the pie. You know what I mean? I'm like,
you made the pizza.
We're actors. We're portraying. It was a job. It could have been for anything. It could have been JoJo's Shake Shack, for crying out loud. It's whoever wanted to hire us, for God's sake. But people, they misinterpret or they equate the actor with the product for real.
Sure.
It's like people who call the actors by their character names on soap operas or whatever. It's if that is the actual person.
Sure.
You have to understand that there's a line there between realms.
Sure. And that's why some people are afraid to do certain roles or attach themselves to certain things. Like, because I work with kids, I tell my certain agents, I don't want to apply for vaping or cigarettes or anything that, it pays really well. I've seen so many calls for it, but unfortunately, because I work with kids, I just don't want to be I don't want to be in a vaping commercial or a vaping ad. You know what I mean? Because I don't feel right doing something like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm still to them a person, but if I was in a vaping ad, meanwhile at school I'm telling kids don't be smoking cigarettes and stuff like it. Just wouldn't. That's very true. Sometimes you can't separate the art from the artist, and that's is there any commercials or any campaigns or any topics that you don't want to be associated with?
Yes.
That you've said.
Yeah. I've turned stuff down for things that I just knew immediately that I couldn't be associated with. In your case, you have a base, and your base is children. You're working with kids.
Right.
And particularly that's a particularly formative area of life to be in. And how can you question to them, or how can you explain, I'm doing this, I'm endorsing something that is not particularly healthy or something that you should be doing, but yet I'm doing it, but don't you do it. Right. And that scrambles, I have to imagine that scrambles a young mind.
Right. If I was in a cigarette, smoking commercial and I was like, oh, well, I just did it for the money. That's a terrible lesson. But
that's tough for a second grader to interpret.
I don't know. So there's not a lot that I would not do, but like you said, depending on what your clientele is or what you're necessarily what you're going for or what your image is, it might affect what you apply for and what you don't apply for. And that's because like we said, sometimes auditions are far and few in between. And during there was one stretch of a dead cold era for me that I wasn't getting a lot of auditions, but I was seeing so many electronic cigarette and vaping commercials, and I was like, oh my God. And the money was so high, and I was like, what is going on? Or THC. Yeah, THC.
The marijuana stuff.
Or something like that. And I'd be like, well, what are the chances that they'll actually see this? And then I would be on the billboard right outside the school being like, go smoke, let's go vape together. You know what I mean? So I don't turn a lot down. But certain things like that, I don't want to be associated with, just because I don't want to be that image for the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like I said, you have your base, and it's a chance you just don't want to take.
Right.
Getting back to the work that you've done, you started, again, shout out to the Delco area, the community theater. You worked at the theater in the Colonial Playhouse, the Haverford Players Club of Swarthmore. Yeah. You had that stretch when you were starting. Any one particular show that stuck out to you as your favorite?
I had so much fun doing really fast, farces, Neil Simon shows, Rumors and The Odd Couple, and shows like that were really fast, quick comedies. And it showed me that I was really good at fast comedy, and I was able to memorize. I remember I played Lenny in Rumors from Neil Simon, and I had a 4-page monologue at the end of it. And it was, Lenny's telling this crazy story, and he's running all over the place and doing all this crazy stuff. And when I first got the script, I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. I have no idea what even is this. And by the end of it, it was such a release of energy. And we have all this built up creative energy inside of us being performers. And when we don't get to release it, that's when we start to go crazy or internalize oh my God, I just need a release. I need to be able to release this energy somehow. And being a really fast-paced comedy show was such a release. It was so, oh God, it felt so good to run around the stage and be able to have that creative freedom. And the other people I worked with were amazing. And so Neil Simon and like really fast-paced comedies. I did like Shakespeare in Hollywood. I can't stand doing Shakespeare because I'm not good. I'm not good. I don't even understand it. I'm not good at it. But I was able to put it on for that show, and it was hilarious. It was a really good time. And I still, like I said, keep in touch with all those actors and all those directors and all those producers and performers. I'll message them every now and then, just like a random quote for the show from like 10 years ago. And I'll be like, do you remember this? Like, this was hilarious. And it's very nostalgic because I love commercials. I love being on set and being on film. But there's something about being on stage with that energy that is unbeatable. And I really miss that. And that's why I love hosting gigs and I love live performances because there's such a different energy to it that I love. And I always crave. I love commercials. Sometimes the waiting around, like we were saying, the sitting around, like hurry up to wait because I'm so pent up and I'm ready to go and I have this energy and I don't want that to deflate. And when I'm sitting around in waiting or in the green room and they're like, all right, we'll get you in like 40 minutes. And then 40 minutes turns into like 3.5 hours. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing it. So that's why I loved live performance so much more is because it's constant moving and I have a lot of pent up energy that I need to release. And I miss it. I definitely miss it.
So your battery is essentially charged as a performer and the theater gives you that outlet. You can create an arc, you can go organically from start to finish.
Right.
And it's truly the actor's habitat versus commercials, films, TV, where you're on a set and you're waiting 7 hours to do your thing. Getting into that realm, I noticed, I'm assuming your first big set experience was Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's movie?
That was so you know what's really funny? I forgot about that. And when I first started, I started doing background work. When I was 18 or when I was 17, they filmed the Silver Linings Playbook with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper, and they came to like Upper Darby, Havertown area to film it. And they used one of my aunt's houses for I don't even remember, some random scene. And then she called me and she was like, "Yo, you have to apply to be in this movie," because I was doing theater at that time. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be in a movie. What's going on?" And I ended up doing background work for the Silver Linings Playbook. And I'm in this, when she's like running down the scene or running down the street, she's running in like a trash bag and she pops out and scares them. And it's like Halloween. I'm dressed in like a Halloween costume and you could see me like for like 2 seconds. But I remember being a kid, like essentially like 16 or 17 and seeing that and being like, oh my God, that is insane. You can do whatever you want. And I started applying for more and more background work. And I did. M. Night Shyamalan loves to film in this area, like in the suburbs of Philly and the Philadelphia area. And I love that. I love to hear that. And I did Glass and I did Creed 2 and then I did The Upside with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart. And I did a bunch of background work. And then as I started climbing the ladder, I stopped doing background work. But I actually had a lot of fun doing background. I know some people don't, but I had a lot of fun because I felt just it was such an out of body experience. Here were these big stars coming on, like Kevin Hart shook my hand and said like, "Thank you so much for all you're doing." I was like, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't even know what is happening. And I loved it. I know a lot of people sometimes when you like start to, get into different performances and stuff like that, people try to pretend like they're too cool for background work or like I never did background work. I'm super proud to say I did background work when I was first starting because it taught me, I watched how the directors were teaching the actors, like I watched how everything worked and it made sense to me. And so when I started doing my own shoots and I understood, the breakdown of cameras and all the wires that's why we're waiting because it takes hours to break that down. Mm-hmm. I watched it as in real time. And I remember just being like, it was a truly out of body experience. And I loved it. I thought it was so cool. And, there was literally nobody doing like community theater. And then the next I was on set with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston and all these people. And I was like, you can do whatever you want. Everybody's journey is different. And there were some people that I was a background actor with. I remember this one older woman, she was like in her 70s maybe. And she said this was her first acting gig. And I remember just being like, you can do whatever you want at any age. It doesn't matter. Like, it was so inspiring. And then it helped me learn the industry. And then I climbed from there and everybody's journey is different. And I'm still climbing ever since then. And you never It's never steps back. Anything you do is always steps forward. And that's always the most important to remember is you're always climbing. Even when you think you're not climbing or you're not moving or you're staying static, you're always climbing. And that's important to remember. And that's important for the actors to remember is because I need to tell myself that too. If I go through a dry spell or I'm not doing anything or it feels like I'm not doing anything, you still are. You still are climbing. It's just a different journey than everybody else. You know what I mean?
Everything's emotion, is it not?
Everything is emotion, always, always. Even when social media can be a really beautiful thing, but it can also be a really terrible thing when, I'm not landing anything for, a couple weeks or a couple months even. And I'm seeing on people's stories, like they're landing this and they're landing that. And it can be really disheartening. And I can be like, oh, okay, well, I'm a loser and I failed. And, but it's not it. And I used to get really upset and really angry, almost because I was jealous, you know what I mean? Like once I started changing that jealousy into cheering for them and being happy for them, because your time will come too. And when your time comes, they're going to be cheering for you too. So make sure you're cheering for other people because that's more important. It's not, we're the only person we're in competition with is ourselves. Like you and I have a very similar look. So I'm sure you and I have been up for many, casting gigs together. And I used to remember sitting in that room before we did self-tapes. And I would look around at all these people who look like me and I would get so angry because I'd be like, oh God, he looks better in this way, or he looks more, like this part. I used to get so in my head about it. You got to let all that go.
You eventually learn that if you're going to endure in this business. And to wrap up the background thing, I equate background as akin to being a classroom. And you have a front row seat there to watch what's happening. And based on what you were saying, I guess it was everything you wanted it to be, everything you thought it was going to be. And you're like, okay, give me more of this. I'm fine with it. And I always tell people that's the litmus test. If you want to be a real actor, just to start, anyone can be an extra. Anybody can be a background on a show. And when the cattle call comes down and they need 200 people for a crowd scene or whatever the case may be, go and see if you can withstand a 15-hour day.
100%.
And if you still have energy at the end of that day and you're excited, maybe you have a shot. That's what I tell people. Some people just drop like flies.
Because
this is movie making. This is boring as hell.
I remember this one girl was so done that she stood up and left halfway through the day. Like we still had another half of the day to go. We were on set. We would take a break and we would come back to like our like round tables in like this a cafeteria or something like that. I remember she was getting so angry because of all the waiting, and she just stood up. I'm out of here, and she left. I remember just being like, "Oh my God, that's crazy."
Yeah, it can be.
That's like leading a job. I was like, "Oh my God, that's crazy." But I get it. It's not for everybody, and it is a lot of waiting around, and that is what you have to be taught right out the gate. It's not like you're going to show up, bomb this scene out, and then you're done. Like, it's just not like I've been on 12, 13-hour shoots for a 15-second commercial. Like,
sure.
And
that's the rub. There's a lot of waiting. The worst is when like I get the co-stars and they put you in your trailer and you're in your trailer for 7 hours.
Yeah.
And you think, oh my God, when's this going to happen? But when it happens, when you're on your mark and the camera is speeding and they go, all right, here we go. You don't want to be the reason why the camera can't roll or stops from rolling.
Right.
It's like, then it's go time. So that's the irony of it. It's like you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. But when it's time to go, it's time to go.
On the move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be prepared. But the biggest thing
huge.
Always be prepared. Always be, know your lines and know everybody else's lines. You know what I mean? Know what is going on and what is happening. Because you don't, like you said, you don't want to be the person that is making the production slow down or not work. I've been on plenty of shoots that they've said go, and I've been like, I forget everything. Where am I? You know what I mean?
It happens.
And it happens to all of us. And I remember just feeling so stupid. I was like, oh my God, how did I let this happen? But it happens to everybody. It has nothing to do with who you are as a performer or all your experience or whatever. It is going to happen. And the best thing you can do is be in support of the person that it happens to. Be like, yeah, who cares? Let's take a deep breath. Let's move on. Let's try it again.
Because you're usually in an environment where it's very easy to get distracted and lose focus. And you have to learn your rhythms and how you work and knowing when it's time to focus.
Absolutely.
There's times where you just have to put the blinders on. The conversations have to stop and you have to go inside, remind yourself of your lines, know your arc, know how you're going to do it. And at the same time, be open to notes, to the director, and to flow with the day.
Right.
You know, and what you were saying too about the old days and seeing people that looked like you and being in those auditions, like I always like to say that, yeah, like from 50 feet away, people do have similar looks, and you can't get it into your head. I had to learn this. It didn't happen overnight, but you can't look at someone who looks similar to you generally and go, they got to be better. They've been at this longer. They've booked this, they've booked that. The thing that I had to learn, and that what is true, is that it's not just your look. It's how you comport yourself. It's how you come across to casting and to individuals. Your vibe, your energy, how you read, how many different choices you can give the director. And there's all these ways you can split the hair. It's not just, there's multiple ways a hair can be split. And those are the ways that differentiate yourself, and those are the ways that make you unique. So based on that, really, we can debate whether competition truly exists. You have to know your person, you have to know what you've got inside, what you have to offer, and you have to have absolute confidence in how you present that and go, hey, welcome to my world. This is me. This is how this is what I'm able to offer you. If you want to buy it, great. If not, that's cool too.
100%.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more with the energy. That's why I do love self-tapes, because they're so, convenient, and it's so, easy to, it's just easy to do on your own time, and you can do it as many times as you want. But there was something so special about being able to give your energy and walk in and have them see what your personality is and see what your energy was like. And that, I love that. And I loved getting to actually see them, casting directors in person and being like, hi, it's nice to meet you. Or they would tell me, tell us about the first time you went to the beach, or whatever they would, whatever prompt that they would give you. And just like having fun with it and just being real. All they care about is obviously a look for a certain product or for a certain production, but they want you to be somebody that they can spend 16 hours a day working with. They want somebody with good energy and positive energy and easy to work with, and can show up on time and give them what they want. And it's very easy to get in your own way and get in your own head and be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Or it all comes down, just have confidence. And if you walk in and all 6 of them are like, absolutely not, you can be like, all right, this just wasn't it. This one wasn't it. And it's not because I failed. It's just because I wasn't what they were looking for. And it takes a while to understand that. And
of course, we're
all human. Everybody takes rejection as failure, and it has to be something that I did. It has to be the way I look or the way I sound, or I'm a really tall man. I'm like 6'1", 6'2". Some of it just comes down to the counterpart that they picked is 5'6", and on camera I look like a giant, and that's just whatever. That's something I can't change. That's just how it works, and it's just what it comes down to. And sometimes, my age range is all over the place, because in certain months of the year, I might look older because of my skin complexion, or I might look younger because, whatever. And that's what it comes down to as well. There's so many different factors that come into play about the industry that I had to learn along the way, that, and I had to be proud of who I am and how I sound and the way I look and my talent, because there will come productions that they're like, yep, that's exactly what I want. And you're exactly who I was looking for. And that when that feeling, when that comes, that feeling is amazing. Yes. And then you have to remember that when you keep not striking out, remember they called you in the room for a reason. They liked what they saw, and they were like, okay, thank you for coming. It's just not it for, for this production. And
that's the thing. It's like, I had to learn too, to let the jealousy go, because it's, you go on Instagram with some degree of intrepidation, you're going like, oh, so-and-so who looks generally like me got that role. Like, okay, well, the instinct is for the jealousy to rise and go, what did I not do that they did?
Sure.
But then I realized that, you know what? It was their job to have.
Yeah.
And I also know that when the occasions come where I throw something up there, when I throw a job that I booked, I know some people are going to be happy, and I know some people are going to be pissed.
Sure.
And that's just the bell curve of psychology and how people react to it. But I think if everyone had the mentality of that was their job, and you will have your jobs.
Sure.
As long as you stick in the game, it's going to happen. As long as you're auditioning, you're going to have the jobs that are meant for you.
Absolutely.
There'd be a lot less negative energy going around in that regard.
There's a quote, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something along the lines like, if you keep trying, you just might get it. But if you stop, you never will. You know what I mean? And all it comes down to is just keep going for it. Keep trying it. I have struck out, and I'm sure you have as well, more times than I can't even put into words how many times I've struck out.
That's everybody.
Yeah. And I say Instagram and social media is your highlight reel and not your behind the scenes. Because if we all posted our behind the scenes, people would be a lot less impressed. You know what I mean? They'd be like, oh, wait a minute, Kevin, that is, what have you been doing this whole time? Because of course we're all proud of the work that we do. We want to put it out into the world and be like, hey, I accomplished this, or I did this. But then for a while I stopped doing that because I got in my head about it that I was like, I don't know, I'm not doing this as a reward or like for you to pat me on the back and tell me I'm doing a good job. I'm doing this because I enjoy it. But I had a lot of people reach out to me saying that it brought them a lot of joy and a lot of positivity to watch my journey. And I love that. So I started posting little things. It doesn't matter if I have a 14-page script talking, or if I'm just doing one single smile in a 3-second ad. It doesn't matter. I'm still proud of it. I'm still excited to be there. I'm still blessed to be there. And I think that's important to remember. I'll never forget this. Years ago, I did a car dealership commercial, and all I did was smile and like shake the guy's hand or something like that. And I posted it, and it said, I'm so proud to whatever. I have booked this role. And somebody that I didn't know commented and said, you're so proud to be in a local car dealership commercial, or something really snarky like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. But I didn't let it get there. I just wrote in all caps, like, you bet, or something like that. Or like, of course I am. Or, who cares? A gig is a gig. And I met awesome people on these gigs. And I don't care if I'm in a 3-second local car dealership commercial that nobody's going to see, or if I'm in a national commercials as well. It doesn't matter. It's all a blessing. It's all a great time. I'm very lucky to be a part of this industry. You know what I mean?
You were invited to the party and you were needed.
Right. 100%.
So you're in that regard, you're living the dream. And let me tell you, Kev, the most money I've ever made as an actor came from car commercials where I wasn't saying a single word.
100. Yeah. That's so funny you say it, because there were some commercials for major companies that I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a 20 grand commercial. And it barely paid my gas to get to the set. You know what I mean? And that there has been some campaigns for a company I've never heard of, and I may never even see the end product. And I couldn't believe how much they paid. Now, of course, you don't do it for the money, but you need money to survive. And it's just shocking as you go through the industry, the different things that shock you, like, daily rates for certain, commercials. Or I remember once I started making like baseline, it doesn't matter. But I remember when I first landed my first commercial that I got ridiculous paycheck, I remember being like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do this forever. But you can't go too crazy. You know what I mean? Because like we said, this is happening right now, but it might not happen for another couple months. So you just I had to really tell myself to live in the moment, enjoy being on the set, really take it in. Because I used to be somebody that used to get so worried about, all right, what's next? What am I doing next? What am I looking for? Get on casting networks, Actors Access, Backstage, this, that. I have to talk to I got to find the next thing. You just got to slow down. Take it in. When you're on set, enjoy your time with the people around you. Really take it in and really just be grateful that you're there and be like, this is crazy. When I was a little boy, I would have never imagined that I'd be sitting here doing something like this. So take it in, slow down, and enjoy the moment. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Totally. It's a stoic philosophy too, where you can't get too high, you can't get too low. Stay on the surfboard, regardless if it's a massive wave or if it's still.
100%. And be happy.
Stay centered on the board. Yeah, and be happy. And if you don't love it, why would you do it? No one's forcing us to do this stuff.
100%. I know a lot of people that I started with that no longer do it, that, found a different career. And the fact that you stayed tells you that a voice in your head or some part of the universe is telling you, you love doing this for a reason. You're good at it. You're needed. And there's a fire inside of you, even though maybe that fire has at some parts of the year or some over the years started to slow down. That fire was still there. And then it gets relit, gets re-inspired. You just have to try different things, go down different avenues. When I'm going low and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing. I can't even find an audition. I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? No, reach out to different people. There's some actors that there's this one girl, I'm going to give her a shout out. Her name is Kelly Warren. We did like a murder mystery commercial years ago. And every now and then we still call each other and check in and be like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And that's what it is. We're all floating together, trying to figure out this industry. And instead of taking each other down, everybody should be helping each other out and pulling each other up, because that's what it is, man. That's what it's all about.
I'm grinning because this pond is way too small. I just worked with Kelly Warren literally 2 weeks ago. Exactly. We did a big ass fans commercial out in Lancaster.
Exactly.
of all the gin joints, of all the people you could have mentioned, you mentioned the lovely Kelly Warren.
And she's getting work. And if she sees this, Kelly Warren, proud of you. She is getting work, man. She was happy and bubbly. And that's a perfect example. And that's so funny because it is a small pond. And that's why you want to be somebody that somebody wants to work with, because you will see them again. I promise you. You will see them again. I worked on like a bathroom remodeling shoot with Annie Pickard. I don't know if you know who she is.
Annie Pickard?
Annie Pickard.
Yes. Yeah, I know Annie.
Yep. Pickard has been my wife multiple times. And I love Annie, dude. I love Annie. And she was my wife years ago on whatever shoot. And then I didn't know anybody. I didn't get any production notes about this bathroom remodeling shoot like a couple weeks ago. And I was in the makeup trailer. I was in the makeup room and they were, doing my hair. And they said, well, your wife or your partner is coming and her name's Annie. And I stopped them and I said, is it Annie Pickard? You say Annie Pickard? I keep saying Annie.
I think it's Pickard, but I'm not 100% sure.
Annie, we love you. I don't know how to pronounce her name right. And Annie showed up as bubbly as ever, adorable. And I said, oh, you got to be kidding me. You're my wife again. And she was my wife and she was lovely to work with. And it's just so funny. You never know who you're going to end up. Like you said, the pond keeps getting smaller. It's hilarious. You never know who you're going to work with. You want to be somebody that they enjoy working with. Like I said, there have been some shoots that I got a call for and I was like, this doesn't really fit me, but I know people who it might fit. And I'll reach out to them on Instagram and be like, hey, did you see this? And I've had so many people do that for me too. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I'd be your competition. Like, why are you helping me? That's not what it is. Your time will come. You want to help other people. What is it? Fix other people's crowns instead of fixing your own or something, whatever. I butchered that. But
no, I like that. Totally.
Fix somebody else before you fix yourselves,
It's like we're polygamous. We all have our bevy of wives, and the girls have their husbands, or whatever the case may be. And
so many wives, so many partners, so many children.
I have my top three.
Always.
Shout out Amy Garber, my favorite work wife, Jen T.
Yes, I've had a lot of wives, a lot of children. It's just hilarious. It's hilarious. I try to keep in touch with, the families and the actors and the actresses, and because it's amazing to see where they go. So when I was growing up and I was doing theater at Haverford, the Haverford kids would see the Upper Darby shows and the Upper Darby people would see the Haverford shows. And David Cornsweet, this is a wild shout out. David Cornsweet is Superman, is in the summer coming up. He's new Superman. His name is David Cornsweet. And David would do shows in the suburbs of Upper Darby. Like he would do Upper Darby. I don't think he went to Upper Darby, but he did the shows and he would come and see the Haverford shows. And we all got acquainted with each other. We all got to know each other. And he climbed his and he became on Netflix. And I remember being like, I know David Cornsweet. And on Instagram, we were still friends. I was like, oh my God. So I messaged him. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So proud of you. It is amazing to see it. You never know where people are going to go. And you just want to cheer for everybody along the way, because if you cheer for them, they're going to be cheering for you too. And that's what it is. It's beautiful.
It's what is it about the Delco area in Pennsylvania? We grow performers out of the weeds here. There's a lot. There's
don't know.
Probably a dozen people, I think, who have really made it, if not more.
It's crazy. I mean, Bradley Cooper, if I'm not mistaken, is he like Philadelphia suburb guy?
Abington. You got Tina Fey.
Fey.
Yeah. Upper Darby. Hey. Sharon Stone. Just Kevin Bacon. The list goes on. Add Kevin to that list momentarily, folks. And also shout out to Kelly's yoga class. And if you're in the York, Pennsylvania area, check out Kelly's yoga place.
I love that you. That's
thumbs up.
And you worked with. I love Kelly Warren. Kelly Warren, if you're watching this, we love you. I wish you all the best and keep killing it. Seriously, she's the best. She really is.
She's blushing right now. All right, Kev, I'm going to quote you. I went through your gram and I got a couple quotes and I want to read this one. And I'm quoting you as saying, I never felt like I had the leading man energy or the vibe to be able to pull it off. I'm often cast as the wacky, smiley, goofy character. Are you okay with that, or do you want to be seen as something more or different?
You know what's so funny about that? I never had this leading man energy, like this like macho. When we were doing shows, I so desperately wanted that when I was in high school, and I watched the main macho leading man character, and I would be like, oh my God, I want to be that so bad. But then I was having more fun being, the wacky, zany characters, and I was getting the comedic relief roles. And I realized I was having more fun as the comedic relief. And I think what really hit me is Joan Cusack. I love Joan Cusack from like Shameless and Toy Story, and she's the best. And Addams Family. She said something that really stuck with me, and I really relate to it. She was like, she knew from an early age she wasn't going to be getting the beauty queen princess roles. She was going to get the wacky, fun, zany, crazy character roles. And she said, and instead of being really down about it, she was really excited about it because those characters have more fun. Those characters have a lot more fun. There's a lot more to it, and those are the more memorable characters. And I have more fun being, wearing prosthetics and wearing a wacky outfit and doing some crazy, zany antics than I was casted once as this leading role. And all I did was just walk around the stage and very brooding and, acted too cool. And I was like, oh my, and I felt so I felt so embarrassed. And like, I felt so so insecure about it because it wasn't me. And I had to act all cool and whatever, like I was the man, and all these people on stage had to pretend that I was like beautiful and this like really masculine energy, and I felt so uncomfortable doing it because that's so far from who I was that I was like, why did I want this? I want the comedic roles, I want the wacky roles, I want the fun roles because that's more genuine to who I am, and I stand by that. I don't have, and when I say leading man energy, leading man could be anything now. You know what I mean? Iconic Hollywood leading man, masculine, stoic. That wasn't me. And people might disagree. I don't know. I just never felt like that was what I looked like or what I felt like. And I enjoy getting a character that might even be embarrassing to play. You know what I mean? Or I'm embarrassing myself on stage doing it. But I don't embarrass myself on stage doing it. I'm having a blast doing it. And I stand by that. And yeah, I thought about that because sometimes when I'm posting stuff like that, and I'll think of like a quote like that, or I'll think of something like that, I stand by it because there's so many people that relate to it, relate to the idea that of insecurity, or, my journey is very similar to somebody else's journey. And me, just by posting something on my story or posting something on my page, being like, this is not what it looks like, and I'm having a blast doing this, and I'm proud of this, and you should be proud of this, and be you and be true, and that's it. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and be like, hey, this really resonates with me, or I really relate to this, and I needed to hear this. And that's why I kept doing it. I was like, oh my God, I needed to hear this. Mm-hmm. So and I still need to hear this. And sometimes by me posting it, I'm talking to myself, you know what I mean? And being like, keep going, or you got this, or stuff like that. I'm essentially high-fiving myself while other people relate to it and resonate with it as well. So yeah, that quote, I stand by it. I don't believe I have leading man energy, but I'm proud of the energy that I have and I put out.
Yeah. So your high energy comedic brand is something you embrace.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Like, and I'm sure you've seen the Halloween costumes or the character, the zany.
Oh yeah.
I'm very rarely the leading man when I'm wearing these crazy prosthetics and doing these really crazy antics. That is where I feel more genuine and having a good time doing. When I did the PBS Kids show, I was this insane I was trying to sell birdhouses to kids. I was trying to steal kids' money, pretty much. And I was this insane, neurotic man trying to sell birdhouses. And I had such a blast filming that. The directors and the cinematographers, and we were all standing there dying laughing because we were like, this is so ridiculous, so over the top. And I was like, that's what I enjoy doing. I don't like subtlety. I like the ridiculousness. And one of my first commercial shoots big commercial shoots. I did like a pest control commercial, and the audition was I had to pretend that I was getting attacked by 10,000 bees or whatever because I just hit a beehive. And at the time, I had one of my roommates go in the backyard and just film me running around and screaming and throwing myself on the floor. And it was not a professional audition at all, like at all. I was in my backyard, rolling around in the dirt, like screaming, and they loved it. They loved it. And I went and I booked this role. And during the commercial, I hit a beehive, like a fake beehive, and I had to essentially do the same thing. And we were howling. We were losing it. I was rolling around on the deck, screaming and being attacked by bees. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite roles I've ever done. It was hilarious. And I was like, this is what I'm good at, is wacky, zany, having a good time, comedic, out loud characters. And maybe a leading role, energy will be down the line, but I'm proud and happy for what people see me as.
Yeah, and I believe you, because if you haven't seen Kevin's Instagram, you got to go on it, because the energy just pops off that account. I mean, between all of your characters, the costumes, the outfits, the clear love for Halloween, and the suits that are just in a different stratosphere that you sport. I don't know, like, Are they, do you commission them? Do you just get them off the rack? Are they pret-a-porter? Tell me about the suits.
I know. Isn't the suit? So the way the suits started is in Havertown, my hometown. It started because I became friends with one of the guys that owned the local, shout out to Yakabuchi in Havertown.
Yeah.
They owned Yakabuchi, and I became close with them. And I was just starting off, and I was getting headshots and stuff like that. And I asked them, I said, because I was friends with him, and I went to the swim club with them, like we were friends, and I said, could I borrow a suit, and I'll post me in like these really incredible shots, and I'll like tag you guys. Is there any, like, this was years ago, I was like so young, and they were all about it. They were so supportive of me, and they said absolutely. And I started with that, and my friend Billy, like I said, would take these pictures, and I tagged them, and used those suit pictures, and it made it look like I was in a massive like men's warehouse catalog shoot. And I wasn't. I was like 17, like it's so young. I had never done a print shoot. And I ended up putting those pictures out, and a company had reached out to me on Instagram. And I want to say there was two companies that had reached out to me. One of them was called Shinesty, and one of them was called Oppo Suits, like opposites, but Oppo Suits. And I forget which company it was, but one of them had reached out to me and said that they would send me a suit, like a wildly loud, it was like a purple suit. And they would send me like this wildly loud purple suit. And all I would have to do was post pictures in it and tag them or whatever. And I was like, what is this industry? What is going on? And that's where I started falling in love with suits, because as a tall man, a thin suit looks good to my figure. And I loved a loud suit. And after I started with a traditional black suit, and then the next one was like this really loud purple suit, and it did really well. And then I ended up just looking around and finding different suits. And I found Halloween suits and pink suits and really loud suits. And then Yakabuchi saw me posting all these suits. And then they reached back out years later, and they let me borrow this incredible, I don't even know what I would call it, this really loud tie-dye looking suit. And that really got out of hand. And I just loved doing shoots and with my friend Billy, and it just kept his production value and his artistry. We grew up together. We went to high school together. And a shout out Billy Denham. He's the best. And we would do shoots like in his basement, with like a small camera, and we had no idea what we were doing. I was like, I think I need a headshot so people know who I am. And he was going to school for photography, and we were just starting off together. And then we just kind of helped each other along the way. He tested out different lights. I tested out different looks, and I would use his photos, and it's crazy. And what it really comes down to is to show with the industry, if you help each other, you both can succeed and you both can climb. And I stand by that. And as time went on, Halloween is something I always loved. When I was really young, I was a little bit more, conservative with how I dressed. Halloween was my experimental time to, try different. I was never the kid that wore like a football jersey and said it was a costume. I was always wearing the most ridiculous outfits. And as I got older and, the production value, I had a little bit more money. I was like, all right, let me like really go crazy here. I started reaching out to different people who worked in like Bates Motel, which is like a haunted house in our area. And I was like, do you know anything about prosthetics? And I just had a lot of people reach out to me and help me. I've just had some really crazy costume ideas and video ideas, and some of them have gone like I did the Addams Family. I dressed like Uncle Fester this past year, and I put a little sketch on TikTok, and it got 1.6 million views in like 2 days, and
damn,
it blew up. And I was like, oh shit. What is this? So I realized like I don't have to be on a massive production set to have that creative energy released. I can release it myself. So I started doing different costumes and different characters and trying different bits. And it's been a lot of fun. And I already have about 10 costume ideas already for next Halloween, even though it's the beginning of April.
You're auditioning Halloween outfits.
Yeah, I'm already trying them on, see what works, what doesn't work. But that helps the creative journey for me. And
sure.
Everybody has a different creative journey, and mine was different paths, and all the paths sometimes intersect with each other and sometimes they don't. I always thought, and I'm sure you did as well, there was only one right way to climb this industry ladder. And I would ask other people how they were doing it, and I tried to model exactly the way they were doing it. And sometimes that works, and a lot of times it doesn't. And that was a really big life lesson. As I was like, wait a minute, I can do this my way and learn and sail my own way. And of course, you want to hear the advice of the people that know what they're doing and are succeeding. Of course, like a lot of people have helped me figure out how to, self-tape and how to apply and how to network. But what it really comes down to is your journey is unique, and your journey is your journey, and nobody can tell you otherwise. And what works for you might not work for somebody else. And of course, what works for somebody else isn't going to work for you. So be confident in who you are and the way you are climbing the ladder, and things just fall into place sometimes. And you just got to be patient, but it will. If you keep going for it, it will.
There's traditional success, and then there's the success that actors and creatives are realizing now, where they can take the power back and create their own content.
Yes.
And more and more and more, it's no longer about legacy media, Kevin. It's really about what we can put out there on the phone, TikTok, Instagram, short form content. We are entertaining each other.
Yeah.
And for some individuals, it is lucrative beyond their wildest imaginations. And that's the world that we're entering. It's the world that we're in now. And it really comes down to responsibility and imagination and creativity for yourself as an individual to say, how do you want to entertain, engage, and inform the world?
100%. I love that. Being a performer and being a creative go hand in hand. And sometimes, like you said, you have to create your own work. A lot of times there was no work, especially during the COVID times. There was nothing. There's a lot of like UGC content. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really necessarily great at that. I didn't completely understand it. I tried it. I was not great at it. I had no idea. I did one for like Roblox. I had no idea what I was doing. It was terrible. But some people are really good at that. I had no idea what it was. So my friends and I would just get together and just do random skits or random 15-second sketches or whatever, and that's how we kept our juices flowing, and we got a blast. I would laugh. I remember being in college and making short films with just my friends. And we I still laugh sometimes thinking about it, because it was just so ridiculous and so freeing. And I don't even know how we came up with certain things, but it didn't matter. We were having a good time, and being able to create your own work and your own creative outlet is incredibly important, because if you're waiting for something to come to you, you might be waiting a very long time. I've been a victim of that as well. If I'm like, oh my God, I'm checking every day for auditions, and I'm like, oh my God. And then another day I'm checking, I'm like, what are weeks go by, and I'm like, okay. Like, if I'm not a creative or a performer anymore, you always are. But if you want to get your creative juices flowing, you have to create your own work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get it. I finally get it, and I understand it now. I was such a traditionalist for the first 15 years of my career, thinking that the proper industry was going to take care of me. I'm like, not necessarily. We're discovering now that it's built on, on sand really, and not bedrock. I mean, traditional media is, you could say crumbling, you can say definitely being redefined, definitely evolving. We have AI, we have business, we have commerce. There's a real argument whether or not we're going to be, commercially viable a few years from now as human beings, as performers.
Right.
So there's all this, and then that can weigh on our minds, on our psyches, and it's so important to stay engaged and creative and involved in your own way with your friends and by yourself, and not wait for the establishment to give it to you, because as you know, you're a big proponent of mental health. I remember a professor in college telling me that if you're intelligent and if you're sensitive, that can potentially wreak havoc on your psyche. And then for people like you and I, let's throw into that mix the realities of show business and being a performer. Talk to me about the process of mental health and the dips and the rises, and what you do to stay even. Like for me, it's meditation, it's health, it's communication with people. What is it for you?
Absolutely. I would agree with you. Music is a really big component for me. I have to stay on a routine, whether it be, definitely with a workout routine. Exercise, physical exercise helps my mental health. My way of meditation, I love hiking and long walks and being out in nature. Sometimes completely just shutting off from the world and just getting out in nature and because mental health has been such a journey, I would say, for me, for my entire life. It's always something that I've battled with. For a while, I was very quiet about it because people would see me as this very outgoing and smiley and positive person. And I didn't want to be known as the person that, was not having a great time all the time, because people were like, oh my God, you're always smiling and you're always so happy. And there was a lot of pressure to that. And when I finally was like, you got to be real about it. So I started posting about it, actually. And I was like, hey, here's what I'm going through. And this is how I feel sometimes. And I opened up about it, and you wouldn't imagine the amount of people that reached out to me and said that they were feeling the same way, because all of us are, in different ways. We are all going through the trials and tribulations of life, and it's very heavy. It can get very heavy, especially if you're alone dealing with it. It can be very heavy. So I had to learn along the way how to deal with it. A lot of it was comparison, and it wasn't so much about acting. It was just about life. If I saw people were achieving things and getting married and having kids and starting families, or, going on these crazy vacations, or I'm moving to Germany, I'm spending a year in Europe, whatever, I'd be like, I am way behind. And the idea of falling behind is soul crushing. If you tell yourself that you are falling behind, it puts you in like a fight or flight response, that you need to do something, or you need to do something drastic, or you need to change something. And learning through, my journey is that everybody's journey is different, and everybody's timing is different. And what is it? Water the plant water the seed where it's planted. You know what I mean? Because where you are right now is where you're supposed to be. And that was a very big part of my journey. Is I wanted things to speed up. I wanted to be doing this by a certain age, and I would put timelines on myself. By 30, I better have this. And then 30 came, and I was like, I didn't have any of that. And that could have been really soul crushing. But I had set up things before I got to 30 to combat that. If you put a timeline on yourself for anything, you're bound for failure. What is it? You make a plan and the universe laughs, or something like that, because
if you want God to laugh, tell him your plans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was a really big part of my journey, is stop comparing where I am out in life to where other people are, and stop being upset or angry at other people's achievements. And it wasn't so much that I was upset or angry at their achievements. I was just upset and angry at my lack of achievements. You know what I mean? Or my thoughts of lack of achievements. And then I would get really down about myself, like, why am I so upset that they're achieving something? You know what I mean? And then it could be a spiral. But then I changed the mindset and changed it into being more proud and more happy for other people and cheering other people on. And music is definitely a mantra for me. I love a good time, but eating healthy helps my mental health as well. Being on a workout routine, meditation means something different for everybody. When I was like, I really wish I could get into meditation. I was asking people how to meditate, and somebody was like, I think you meditate already. You just do it, your way. When you're out in nature and you're by yourself and you're listening to, calm music and you're sitting by the water. That is meditation. I was like, oh my God. Okay. I thought meditation had to be this really dramatic lay on the floor and whatever. It doesn't. And that was a big change for me, is to be like, you do things your own way. And that's the beautiful part of it. So mental health is always a journey. It's not a destination. I'm always going through ups and downs and ebbs and flows, as we all are, different seasons of, and now that I'm getting older, I can understand, oh, you're not sad, it's just rainy April, or you're not sad, it's no sun January, you know what I mean, or whatever, something like that. And I can tell myself, you're spiraling because this, that, and the third. And now you know the tools and the different ways of how you can combat that. I love a sauna. I just got into going into the sauna like 2 years ago. I love the sauna. That was a really big, because sometimes with somebody that has a lot of energy, I can't slow down, and I like constantly moving, and it takes a while, or it takes a lot for me to just slow down. And I was able to find that in the sauna, and I was able to find that in different things. And I think my biggest thing is to stop putting timelines and chains on myself, because nobody else is. So why was I doing that? Nobody else was doing that. That was my biggest quote is, the only person standing in my own way is myself. Nobody else. And if they are, I don't care. I don't need to hear it, but nobody else is critiquing me the same way I am. And I would never, I say it to the kids all the time at the elementary school, if you wanted to say it to like another kid in the class, why would you say it about yourself? If there was some random kid in the classroom, or a younger version of yourself, could you imagine going into that room and yelling at that kid and saying these awful things about yourself to that random kid? And if you couldn't do it, then why would you say it to yourself? Why would you ever want to make yourself feel like that? And sometimes teaching kids stuff like that, I'm like, wait a minute, I needed to hear that. You know what I mean? Why didn't I hear that? So mental health is a journey. It's not a destination, and I'm still figuring it out as I go, but I definitely have a lot more tools in the tool shed than I did in the beginning. I'll tell you that.
Thank you for that. And when I get in my head, I just remind myself, continue to take inspired action each day.
Yeah.
And let the universe take care of the hows and the whens.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That we have no control over.
Your time will come.
Time will come.
Now, like, there's so many beautiful things happening. It doesn't have to be this big, monumentous reward for you to be like, oh, that was worth, I'm worth it. Every day you're worth it, man. You don't have to, your achievements don't have to be these really big trophy-like moments. There's so many achievements day to day that I take in. I had to remind myself, like right now, I'm saying this as if I'm some sort of spiritual guru. I'm not. It's like every day I have to, I always go through the same journey as well. But I'm in a very good spot right now. I'm in a very good spot, physical health and mental health. And I have a lot of beautiful people in my life, and I've had a lot of beautiful opportunities. And I try to remind myself as much as I can to be grateful. I always, on most of my posts, always finish it by saying, I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'll finish it by saying somewhere along the lines of how lucky I am, because I am. At the end of the day, I've had experiences and opportunities that I'm completely blessed that I've had. I'm very lucky over, and I had to remember those moments over the moments that I didn't have.
That's wonderful to hear. It really is. And if I may quote you one final time, to bring that whole segment around, and I appreciate you for talking about it. The quote is, "Stay alive for your other selves, the people that you're going to become. You're more than a bad day, a month, or a year. You're a future of multifarious possibility. You are another version of yourself in the future, looking back in gratitude that you held on. These rough times always teach you something and make you stronger."
Absolutely. Yeah.
Damn, man.
I think, yes.
Hard-earned wisdom, right?
Yes. And in my notes on my phone, I have 20, 30, 40 notes written of different things like that, because it is the truth. And randomly I'll think of something and be like, what I was going through then was ridiculous. And 10 years later, looking back at it, I'm like, I wish I could go up to that person and be like, what? But it doesn't matter. It's all relative. What was soul crushing to Kevin 10 years ago was soul crushing to Kevin 10 years ago. And my experiences and opportunities and adventures, what is soul crushing to me now is completely different. And you have to remember, you got through 100% of your bad days, and you're about to get through 100% of them, moving forward. And what doesn't destroy you is going to make you an even more beautiful and more of an incredible life force on the other side. And you get to be, and now I get to be that voice for hundreds of other people, especially young minds, like young, impressionable minds. And I get to say this to kids and be like, yo, I wish more than anything that I had. A big quote is, I like to be the person that I wish I had when I was a kid. You know, to tell me that I was perfect just the way I was. And of course, you're going to have bad days. And, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't talk about mental health and depression and anxiety. It just wasn't, you didn't talk about it. And I came from a very Irish family, and I love my Irish family, but and the Irish, you didn't talk about it. You just didn't, you didn't talk about it. And if you did, it was quickly the hushed up. And the most important thing was talking about it. I believe that, you know, be strong and get through this time, because you have no idea what is coming around the corner, who you're about to become. And that's the beautiful part of life, is you never know what is headed your way. And that is a beautiful thing to hold on to.
So what's one of those notes in your phone? What's a pearl of wisdom that acts as a guiding light?
3 days ago, some things are better than money, is what I literally just wrote down. Some things are better than money. I don't know what possessed me to write that down, but little things like that, because it is the truth. I have never had a lot of money. My family didn't have a lot of money. I have never been in career fields where I was making a lot of money. And that was another thing, is I used to think if by a certain age, I should have a certain amount of money. And I started realizing some things are better than money. I wrote this story in my notes, and I highlighted it. It's a really long one. I'm not going to say the whole thing, so I'm just going to read it really fast. Today, I ran into a kid at the supermarket who used to be a camper at the summer camp that I used to run and work at. He is now a full-grown adult. After catching up, he said, "Mr. Kevin, when I see you, I think of childhood." We laughed at some of the nonsense and then that went on at the camp before parting ways. The impact and impression that you make on someone can last a lifetime, no matter how small or simple you may think it may be. Here was an adult man laughing hysterically over the countless water balloon fights and other games that we played at this camp years and years ago. And the impact that you have on people around you is bigger than you think sometimes. Someone still laughs at the funny thing you said. Someone still laughs when they think of the compliment you gave them. The support and love that you share with others can make a difference in the lives around you. And it's nice to be reminded of your impact sometimes, no matter how small. I simply won't forget that little moment. And that is something that I hold on to. That was the kid that, he was a grown man. It is like mid to late 20s that I ran into at the supermarket. And he said, "When I think of you, I think of childhood." And it brought him right back. And I was like, you never know. Your impact and the energy that you put out in the people around you, whether it's somebody so small, somebody sitting next to you on a bus, in line at the supermarket, whatever. You never know what a person is going through, because I'd been on the other side of it. And something as simple as reaching a hand out or a smile or saying a compliment, it doesn't have to be a ridiculous compliment. It can go a long way, and your impact is eternal and forever. And just make sure it's a positive one, because it is lasting. It's lasting. I promise you that.
I'm not talking to Oprah, am I? I remember her saying, "Be responsible for the energy you bring into a space." And Kevin, my God, you are the epitome of positive light and energy. And
thank you.
Keep it going, my man. Honest to God, why didn't we meet sooner? Jeez, 90 minutes have gone by just like that. So where can people find your Instagram?
Sure. So my Instagram is at Kevin Towell. I think it's at _Kevin_Towell, because Kevin Towell was like already taken. How many Kevin Towells there are in the world, but it's at _Kevin_Towell. And then my TikTok is at Kevin Towell 107. 107 is a number that follows me and my group of friends. And I'm very attuned to messages from the universe, and I'll see, what are they called? Synchronicities in nature all the time. And when you're more open to seeing them, whether it's all in my head or not, I see them everywhere. And I see numbers, certain numbers all the time. And 107 was one of them. And I don't know if somebody on here is an angel reader or has any idea what that number means, please let me know. But I see that number everywhere. So Instagram is at _Kevin_Towell. TikTok is at Kevin Towell 107.
There you go. I get 333-555-111s on license plates almost every day. And the clock, I'll get on timers, on clocks, I'm not kidding. Every single day I'll get some consecutive number. And that tells me, relax, you're okay.
I say it all the time.
Everything's fine.
It's the universe's way of tipping its hat and saying, just slow down. Where you're not alone. I'm here with you. You're on the right path. You're at the right place at the right time. And sometimes I'll literally just laugh and I'll look up at the sky or whatever. I'll just be like, all right, thank you. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Because it'll happen in the most ridiculous places. I get 107. You said 303. I'll get 303, 404.
333, yeah.
Yep.
It's a big one.
And I'm like, what is happening? And I used to get like really, when it was really first happening, I was really spooked out by it because I was like, am I losing my mind? But I think if you're open to, if your energy is very, and I don't know what any of this means. I don't know what religion people believe in or whatever. You can say it's religious. You can say it's spiritual. I don't know what it is. All I know is it's a synchronicity in life that tells me that it comforts me and tells me that I'm on the right path and I'm at the right place and I'm at the right place at the right time. And it's enough of a comfort for me to keep going and keep moving forward and just tip my hat and say, hey, universe, you're listening. I'm listening. Let's keep going. Let's figure this out.
Kevin Towell, I love your vibe. I love your energy. I love this talk. It's been way more than I expected it to be. Keep up your energy. Keep up your vibe. Keep being a light out there. And let's get on set soon. And in the meantime, let's go grab that tequila shot, shall we?
Please. I would love that. Paul, seriously, it was so great to catch up. I wish you all the best. I know you and I will be on set again, or we'll continue competing for the same roles and you'll keep getting them. But I know I will see you soon. I wish you the best. Keep killing it. And I'll see you soon. Okay, Paul?
Take care, my man. I appreciate you.
All right. Take it easy.